Android is on 3.9 billion phones right now. Every single one runs the Linux kernel. Google acquired Android in 2005, stripped the GNU user space, replaced it with Apache license code, and shipped it to manufacturers who owed the open source community nothing. The Linux kernel reached 1 billion devices. The obligations didn't follow. Linux 7.0 just shipped post-quantum cryptographic signatures to all of them. 4 billion people won't know it happened. That is infrastructure. Linux won smartphones by becoming invisible. Nobody chose it, it simply arrived. The same calculation is now being made by AI labs. Take open weight models, build your own stack. Oh, nothing. Infrastructure wins without winning arguments. Do you know what the AI in your pocket is actually running?
Let's get into it.
Late 2008, a Tier 1 New Zealand bank. I was replacing more than 1,300 Solaris machines with Red Hat Enterprise Linux, production banking systems, real financial data, not a proof of concept. This is the Hamberger report. I'm Andreas Hamberger, enterprise architect and technology strategist, Wellington. Then the global financial crisis arrived. Banks let contractors go. By September 2009, I was starting at 2 degrees. New Zealand's brand new third mobile operator. Their website had issues. I fixed them. I needed a new phone. 1 year before I arrived, on 23 September 2008, Google and HTC had announced something called Android. I had been too preoccupied with the bank migration to pay it much attention. The phone I bought to start my new job turned out to run it. Linux had conquered my pocket before I noticed it was competing for the space. That sentence contains the entire argument of this episode. The most consequential deployment of the Linux kernel in history was not a deliberate architecture decision. It arrived as infrastructure. This is how it happened. The story of Android begins in Palo Alto, not Mountain View. In 2003, Andy Rubin and 3 colleagues founded Android Incorporated with a simple ambition: an open, programmable mobile operating system. Their initial vision centered on cameras. When that market proved less compelling than expected, they pivoted toward the device most people already carried. Google acquired Android Incorporated in 2005 for approximately $50 million. In retrospect, this is one of the more consequential $50 million investments in technology history. Development proceeded under the Open Handset Alliance, a consortium of 34 companies, including HTC, Qualcomm, Motorola, and T-Mobile. Google would supply the platform. Manufacturers would supply handsets across various markets. The combination would achieve distribution no single company could reach alone. On 22 October 2008, the first Android device went on sale in the United States. The HTC Dream had a slide-out keyboard, a trackball, and an operating system most buyers had never heard of. First-year sales around 1 million units, 4th in US smartphone market share. The numbers that followed were not modest. Android is built on the Linux kernel. That part is not in dispute. From there, the picture becomes more complex. A standard Linux distribution, the kind I had been working with since 1994, combines the kernel with the GNU user space. Android discards the GNU user space entirely. Google wrote Bionic, a custom C library released under the Apache 2.0 license rather than the GPL. The rationale was practical on 2 dimensions: performance on constrained mobile hardware, and licensing. Apache 2.0 carries no copyleft requirements. Manufacturers could take Android, modify it, ship it in a consumer device, and owe the open source community no code in return. Linux kernel code was spreading to 1 billion devices. The reciprocal obligations that accompany GPL code were not following it into those pockets. Above Bionic, Android runs the Android runtime. Application code does not execute directly on the kernel. It runs on a managed runtime that sits above a custom C library that sits above the kernel. Everything the user sees inhabits a world built entirely by Google on top of a foundation Google did not build. The kernel is Linux, with a Google interface above it. Debating whether this constitutes real Linux is a category error. Samsung changed Android's trajectory. In June 2009, Samsung launched the first Galaxy handset. Samsung brought manufacturing scale, retail distribution, and a consumer brand capable of reaching markets where HTC had limited presence. The Galaxy line became the primary vehicle for Android's expansion across Europe, Asia, and the developing world. Competition among Android device makers pushed handset quality upward while pushing prices down. By 2015, it commanded nearly three-quarters. As of 2025, Android holds approximately 72% of the global mobile operating system market, running on around 3.9 billion active devices. The entire world population in 2009, when I was getting my first Android phone at 2 degrees, was approximately 6.8 billion people. Android's active device count today is larger than the total human population of that year. This is the largest single deployment of the Linux kernel in history. The margin is not close. The enterprise Linux story I had been living through was significant. This dwarfed it by every measurable scale. Looking back at 2008 and 2009, I was present for the quieter of the two Linux victories and experienced the louder one almost by accident. The banking project was the enterprise Linux story the community had been arguing for through the SEO years and the Novell years. Linux was not merely competitive with Solaris, it was the replacement for it, production banking infrastructure, certified and supported. Android was the other victory, running in parallel in a completely different context. The same kernel, deployed to an entirely different audience, through an entirely different channel. Enterprise architects were not talking about Android in 2008 the way they discussed Red Hat or SUSE. Android was phones. Phones were something else. The GFC had interrupted the banking project before Android gained serious momentum. By the time it did, I was at 2 degrees needing a job and a new phone. The phone turned out to run Linux. I had not chosen Linux for my pocket. It was simply there. By September 2009, Linux was something you received without making a deliberate decision. In April 2026, Linus Torvalds released Linux 7.0. Among its contents, Rust promoted to stable across the core kernel API, post-quantum cryptographic signatures for kernel module authentication, replacing CA1 module signing. These changes will propagate across future Android release cycles to the billions of devices in people's pockets. Most of those people will not read the release notes. They will not know their phone's cryptographic foundation was updated against quantum computing threats they have never thought about. That is what infrastructure means. Linux won the smartphone market by becoming infrastructure rather than a product. Nobody asks whether an AWS instance is Linux. Nobody pauses to consider whether the supercomputer running a climate simulation is Linux. The question has dissolved because the answer is so thoroughly assumed that asking it would feel strange. The same transition is now underway with AI. The GPU clusters training large language models, the inference infrastructure serving them, the container orchestration managing their deployment, all of it runs Linux. Users interacting with AI systems are, in a precise technical sense, using Linux. They will not think of it that way. The governance question this raises is not theoretical. When infrastructure becomes invisible, the decisions made inside the community governing it carry consequences that extend far beyond that community. The Linux kernel maintainers work in public. The process is genuinely transparent. But the billions of people whose phones carry each kernel update have no direct relationship with that governance process. For organizations under NZISM version 3.9, the post-quantum module signing in Linux 7.0 is the cryptographic baseline that will underpin security infrastructure. It arrived in a kernel release ahead of any New Zealand regulatory framework that will eventually require it. The same calculation Google made in 2008, take the kernel, build your own stack, owe the community nothing, is now being made by AI labs with open weight models. That is not a new strategy. It is the one that put Linux in 4 billion pockets without putting governance anywhere near them. His hobby, 30 years on, is carrying the post-quantum cryptographic posture of 1 billion government and enterprise devices. Governance tends to follow infrastructure. It would be worth getting ahead of it for once.
That is the Hamburger report for today. If this was useful, subscribe and hit the like button. It helps more professionals find the channel. You will find links to everything we covered in the description below. I am Andreas Hamberger, and I will see you tomorrow.
Like and subscribe.
Wow.